Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a podcast by Practical E-Commerce.
What is going on, Internet? Eric Van Holtz back again with another E-Commerce Conversations. I hope all is going well on the other side of the Internet. On the other side of the table from me, Tan.
How you doing, buddy?
With Asian Efficiency, man.
I'm excited to be here. This is like a really cool spot that you have here in Austin. You got, a barber shop, you're housing products here, you have a little podcast studio here. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah, the real deal. And over here, I got all these lights. So if I ever want to do like a live stream for YouTube, I can do that too.
Yeah, this is a real company.
Yeah. 10 years we celebrated.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah. You've been around the game for a while. How long have you been doing it?
I've had mine for 11 years now. So
you got me beat by a year.
Yeah, by 1 year. But I haven't been on TV like many others. So I'm jealous of that.
Yeah. Why don't you really quickly tell our listeners what you're doing?
Yeah, so I run a company called Asian Efficiency where we help people become more productive at work and in life. And this is a very passionate thing of mine where I just want to help people just maximize their opportunity and make sure that they're living their life to their fullest potential. So we help people through courses and workshops, and most of it is online and some of it is in person. And the idea is just, how do we maximize your time, energy, and attention? So these are like the three currencies of productivity, as I like to say. So we want to make sure we maximize our time, we have the energy to do stuff, and the attention to focus doing the right things. And if we have all three in place, then we're superhuman productive, as I like to call it. So most people, when they first come to us, they lack time. They're just like overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. They don't have that time to do stuff. They feel like they wish they had more hours in a day. Like, that's a typical person that comes to us. And then they realize, okay, I can do all these things to free up time, and now I have extra time, but now I lack the energy. You come home from work, or you had a long day and you had some other things left to do on your to-do list, and you go, oh my gosh, I just don't have any energy to do this stuff. And how do we figure that part out, right? That's one thing. And then as an entrepreneur, as you know too, when you spend all your time and energy on the wrong thing, it's such a waste of life. So we always want to make sure we focus on doing the right thing, not doing things efficiently and on the wrong things. We want to make sure we do the right things, and then ideally efficiently as well.
So for our listeners, a couple things I want to talk about. I've known Tan. It has to be at least 6 or 7 years. We did an EOS shop. I think it was like the first time we met in person. And we kind of crossed circles. Do you remember that when that was? What year was that?
Yeah, we went to, I think it was a scaling up workshop.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we met before or after that, but we went to our mutual friend Billy hosted like a little retreat. I remember us sitting one night on the couch complaining about how Facebook ads are terrible.
Still true. Still true to this day. So we share that experience, like optimizing our business through EOS. And then also he struggles with the same problem that Beard Brand struggles with. And that Beard Brand, people assume it's only beard care products and only bearded people can wear it. And unfortunately, with a name like Asian Efficiency, you get this question all the time. Like, I'm not Asian. Do I need this, right?
I get that question all the time. Yeah. So this started off as a passion project. Just me and my friend Aaron. We were both Asian, or still are, I should say.
You didn't lose your Asian cred?
I didn't lose them creds. We still have it. And we started this blog as a passion project. We just want to share what we learned, and it accidentally turned into a business. And so I never thought, starting this business that it would be an issue, because it was just kind of like tongue in cheek. And we actually were mentioned in the lawsuit. Not there was a lawsuit against us, but like they use Asian Efficiency as an example where it could be used derogatory in a way. Like, can you use derogatory terms in your company filing names? And I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is the first time I'm being mentioned on a major publication, but not in the context that I would like it to be. And so, yeah, I got that question all the time. Like, hey, is this only for Asian people? It's like, no, like, hey, this is actually for everybody, but we just use it tongue in cheek in our marketing to say, hey, you can be as efficient as Asian people, right?
Yeah.
Because there's this positive stereotype, which kind of works in our favor. And I've gone back and forth, and maybe you have too, about, should I change the name? Like, should I keep it? Should I change it? And someone reminded me of this story of there's this company here in Texas called Big Ass Fans.
Oh, they're from Texas.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. And so they had the same problem where people were like, hey, do you really want to call your company like that? Like, it's not really professional. And there's, this is a huge company now, right? But they're like, no, this is what we're going to call it. This is what it is. This is what we stand for. And I said, you know what? I really like that. This is what I'm going to do as well.
Yeah, and we've kind of had the same thing too. I've thought about the options of changing the name, and there's always trade-offs. Like the people who get it, they get it, and there's that low friction. Whereas if I was just like, genericgrooming.com, and people are just like, what,
Yeah, I think what's cool about your brand is once they stumble across it, they see that it's just more than that, right?
Yeah.
And when they come to our brand, they kind of see that as well. But if you just hear it in conversation, I think what's nice about it, though, with your brand, for example, is if you have a beard, you just go right away, like, oh, this is for me,
right?
And you draw in a lot of people that way. And for people who don't have a beard, they might go, oh, that sounds interesting, but maybe it's not for me. But then if you see it enough times, you go, oh, maybe that is for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just the hard part. Those people who don't identify as bearded. But yours is I would imagine, pretty simple. I would imagine most of your customers are not Asian customers.
Oh, 99% are Caucasian people.
Yeah, because they want that Asian efficiency, man.
That's right.
What are I'm going on a little bit of a tangent because it's been a long time since I've seen Tan, and I'm excited. One of the things that amazed me is whenever I would meet you at like a business trip. In fact, I think for a period of time, we both live here in Austin. We would see each other more frequently at like conferences than we would here in Austin. But he would have your assistant like line up the hotel, make sure everything is walkable. What are the rules that you have for traveling, for being efficient, for, I guess, also working with a VA? Do you still work with a VA?
Yeah. So my executive assistant, her name is Jury. I've been working with her for many years. And I would say I hired her way too late, right? So I was into my business like 6-7 years. And then that's when I hired my executive assistant. And I wish, looking back now, that I hired her like in my first year, because as you're growing your business in your first year, the main leverage you have is yourself. Like you need to duplicate yourself somehow. So oftentimes you need to free up your own time. You need to figure out how you can generate more sales. And the executive system can really help you with that, where it's booking meetings or arranging your travel, like all these things that don't seem like that big of a deal. But when you add it up, it is kind of a big deal. And I wish I hired her earlier. So I would recommend everybody who makes over $150,000, $200,000 a year is like the first person or one of the first people you should hire as an executive assistant. And she works for me like maybe 5 to 8 hours a week. So it's part-time, and it's always been like that. And it's not that expensive either. You can pay somebody $20, $25 an hour to get started with. And I would recommend that you hire someone who's been doing this for 2 years at least, so you don't have to train them. They kind of train you. And so she does all this stuff for me every single day, arranging travel. So, for example, I like using an executive assistant over like services like Fancy Hands, for example, where they do one-off stuff, or even Fiverr or other services like that. Is because when you build a relationship with your person, they start to be able to understand how you think and what your preferences are and how you make decisions, so that over time they can make decisions on your behalf, right? So when it comes to travel, she knows, for example, I'm an ale guy. I don't know about you, but I'm an ale guy. I can't sit at the window or in the middle. And so whenever we have situations where, there might not be an ale seat, what do we do then? Then she knows, okay, Tan's secondary favorite seat is the window seat, right? And then third favorite is the middle seat. But I also like to, if I have a connection, for example, that's only 45 minutes in between flights, I want to sit as far front as possible, even if it means that I don't get an ale seat,
right?
Because there's a risk of losing that connection, and I can suck up sitting on the window side versus, ale seat. So there's all these like little decisions that come with just booking a flight and booking travel that way. And once you've done it once, you can kind of systemize it and maybe even write it down and say, here's what my preferences are. Then over time, someone can take that and then replicate that, so that you don't have to do it, because now it saves me 45 minutes to book a flight, right? And now I can use that time to I don't know, go to bed earlier or spend more time with, friends and family or whatever. And you do this across 5, 6, 7, 10 different tasks. You start to realize like, whoa, like I can free up multiple hours a week.
I feel bad because I'm 10 years in and I don't have an executive assistant.
Oh my gosh, this is going to change your life once you have one.
Yeah, our first hire at Beard Brand was an executive assistant, and it was just kind of like, yeah, do all the things that I don't want to do. And she did a lot of that booking. And then I've always battled this kind of like guilt of like having the company pay for, just what I view as just kind of like not remedial, but just like simple things done. And it's always been the struggle of this like ego of hiring someone to specifically kind of help me out. Was that an issue that you had at all, or am I just some weirdo?
No, I didn't have it personally, but a lot of people that I've worked with, and my friend Tim has like an executive assistant company, like that's a common thing I hear. And one of the questions you have to ask yourself, I think, is because you like to work in an office, do you want somebody remote or would you rather have someone in person? Because that does make a difference, right? Because when you have it remote, options open up quite a bit in terms of where they can live, how much you pay them, and so on. Versus if you want someone in person, like they have to come in a certain time, and how you communicate and work with your person, like that's different. But if you want someone in person, like you pay a different rates, and are you going to be okay with that, and so on. But I think in your situation, either way, you should definitely go for one.
Yeah, maybe just share it with the team members or something. But then it gets confusing with their priorities and their responsibilities.
Oh, I will say, I actually have my EAB shared with my other senior people as well. So they get 2 hours a week with her.
Okay.
And they know, like, they basically Slack her. They don't really have meetings with her. But anytime they need something, they can message her. And I will say that's one of their favorite perks is to be able to say, like, oh, hey, I'm trying to organize this dinner for my anniversary with my wife. Like, could you help me book this? Instead of them doing it, my executive assistant does it for them. It's like a really nice perk that they really enjoy. And so you can kind of justify it in that way too, if that helps. But
what about like, that ask of just business related task versus personal related tasks? Like, is there a boundary for there? I understand how, the reality is like we are doing personal things at work, like every single person is. And, having an assistant to help there with a personal task, but it seems like it's also kind of like conflict of interest for the business and things like that. Is that, again, just my own head trash I got to get over?
Sure. Yeah, there is a lot of overlap between personal and business. And I think a way to, quote unquote, be able to justify it in your head is to say, like, what does this person do to justify her or his pay, right? And when we think about that, we have to sit down and really think, like, what can this person do to free up time and energy and maybe even contribute to the business that makes it worthwhile? So, for example, in my case, she frees up a lot of time, which I can use for other things. So for me now, it's oftentimes like I almost say a luxury or a convenience, right? And I'm the type of person that is willing to spend that. But in the beginning, I couldn't spend that and afford that. And so I had to figure out, like, how do I justify this? And I said, okay, here are all the business tasks that she can do that would contribute to the business. So one of the examples was she would do all the podcasting reach out and the guest posting reach out. And so she would try to score us like, seats on other people's podcasts and be able to contribute some sort of content to other people's website. And that was an easy way to kind of be able to justify and say, like, oh, for any podcast that you score, like, great job. Like, let's aim for maybe like 5 a month or something, right? And regardless if it's a small podcast or a big podcast, like, once we have that process nailed down, all she's got to do is, like, on her spare time, just like, okay, let's score some podcast seats. And that's really valuable marketing, right? Yeah. And so for the limited hours and time, like, we can create high ROI that way. So you have to figure out, like, what is that for you?
Yeah, I think that's a good direction. One other kind of like mental challenge I need to get over with executive assistants is just that, like, that communication of, like, if we were communicating and I'm like, well, let me loop in my assistant to make the, schedule the call or whatever. It does have that kind of like passing off effect that seems to be like kind of like slightly weird etiquette, like, I guess the better question would be, what would be the proper etiquette for introducing your executive assistant for scheduling and when it should be done? Like, obviously my wife is not going to work through my executive assistant. right?
Well, there's a lot of ways you can go about it because I actually did a whole podcast episode about this a while back. And the title was, Am I an asshole if I send someone my Calendly link, which is like a scheduling tool, right? There was this kind of debate online about this where this VC in Silicon Valley was like, if you send me your Calendly link to schedule a call, what you're basically saying is my time is more valuable than yours, so figure out a way to get on my schedule, right? And I can kind of see that point of view, but I disagree in the sense that if you frame it correctly and communicate it correctly, like it's a win-win for both of us, right? So if we're trying to organize this meeting, I could say to you, hey, Eric, I know your time is valuable and I know you're a busy guy and I have some stuff coming up as well. I think one way for us to save time to meet each other is maybe we can use this scheduling link tool to be able to coordinate. And, here's the link. If you find something that doesn't work for both of us, let me know and I can move some stuff around and we can figure this out. Yeah. And I've copied my assistant Jury just in case.
Yeah. I found the way that I do it is I say, hey, send me over your Calendly link and I'll pick a time. But if it's easier, here's my link so you can do either one, right?
Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I think it's all about setting the frame and the context. That's really important. If you just go, hey, here's my link, go figure it out, then it's kind of like that social construct is a little weird, but I think if you frame it correctly, it should be nice.
This is an aside, but I had someone like cold emailing me something about being on a podcast, and I think like they wanted me to like come to an event, but they weren't clear in the communication. They were kind of like selling me something. I forget what they were selling me, but I like played it off like, no, you invited me on as a guest to your podcast. Here's my link. I'd be happy to appear on your. Anyways. Sometimes I'm an asshole. So if you cold email me and it like, I don't know, gets under my skin a little bit, I may kind of.
So here's a question I have for you then is, are you okay if people make introductions to you without your permission? Like, do they have to ask for your permission?
That doesn't really bother me at all, especially if it's someone I know, or even if it's someone that I kind of quasi know. I don't want to be introduced to someone who's just going to sell the crap out of me, which I assume most people don't. I go ahead and I make introductions cold just because if I talk to one of my friends and they're like, yeah, I'm looking to do investment deals, then I'm like, well, here's an investment deal. I'll just pass it on. Then they can say no. But I don't know. Do you ask for permission before making introductions?
I used to not to until I figured out some people want to be asked for permission first before they get the introduction. And so everyone is a little different, but I kind of default to, or it's no, and just having like almost like an exception list on the side and be like, okay, if I'm going to introduce this person, I know like I need to ask them first.
Yeah. I mean, I think the answer to that is I should know the person well enough to know if they're going to be offended by a cold intro or not. And then I don't know.
Yeah. At
the end of the day, you ruin a relationship. Then it probably wasn't that good of a relationship to have anyways.
Right. Yeah. Some people are just a little bit more sensitive about stuff. And someone as me who likes to be inclusive, but also respect people's, privacy and sensitivity to stuff, like I'm always trying to find that balance.
Well, it's that balance of efficiency too. It's like, do I have to go through like 2 or 3 emails to like just do this? Or can I just be like, get it done, move on? If you can't handle a freaking cold email introduction, then I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm pretty sure you're going to run into it at some point.
Oh,
too.
yeah. I'm sure people listening, like, I mean, and I've gotten introductions before, but I get so many like cold emails now. It's just like, well, if I don't like it, I don't like it.
Yeah, with cold emails, I'm the same way. Like, if I don't know you, like, and this is not good, like, just don't expect a reply from me. Yeah. And that, I think most people going into that kind of expect that too, or have seen that happen before. But if I get an introduction from someone, even if it doesn't appeal to me, I will always try to say something about it and be respectful of the person who introduced me as well, because I want to show them like, hey, thank you so much for thinking of me, and I will email separately the other person and be like, hey, this is not for me, but thank you. Hopefully we can meet some other time or do something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know. Some things I lose sleep over. It's just not one of them. So, oh man, what's new with Asian efficiency, man? Like, you were the inspiration for our community building. Is that still a big part of your business?
Yeah, so we have a community that's been running since 2016 now, and it's been a huge part of our business, to be honest, especially when COVID first came, because I had no idea what was going to happen. I was really happy that we built this community that was, from a business point of view, like on recurring revenue. And so I was like, okay, I could stay calm and not worry about it, right, as much. And on the flip side, like I'm always trying to figure out ways like how do we add more value to our community, and things have definitely changed over the years where it was just like, okay, we had a Slack and a private forum to now having, new classes every single month and new coaching and then office hours and then new courses that are being added. And so it's always being grown in different ways and areas and also stripped down in different ways where we realize like people don't care about certain features, right? So it's the thing that we're trying to always learn from. But now the component that I want to add to that is, okay, it's great to meet online and communicate, but there's something about being in person. And as someone who does a lot of stuff outside of my business in person, like I host a lot of dinner parties and events around Austin. And so I kind of want to bring that to my business this year where I bring the community in person. So we have ideally an industry conference and like in-person workshops and events where, yeah, it's fun. Like that's why I'm not a big fan of the metaverse as much. I don't know about you, but like I just don't see us going digital completely. There's always something about in person, like we're doing this podcast. It's just a very different feel and vibe versus doing it 100% on Zoom. So there's something that I want to bring to our industry is just in-person events, and I'm really excited about that.
You must have a lot of these kind of like philosophical thoughts in your head, because when I think of in-person events, I think of inefficient, right? You got your plane tickets, you got your hotels, you got the travel, you can only talk to so many people. In theory, online meetings are way more efficient, but to a certain degree, you're not able to build that same rapport or whatever may happen from that. Kind of like talk about how you find balance between doing things that are quote unquote inefficient and how you allot time for those. And, like, do you get consumed with being efficient all the time?
Yeah. So this is something I had to figure out, which was the idea of, are we just being productive for the sake of being productive? And that's, I think, a trap a lot of people get into is they just want to be productive as much as they can and just strive for that, but it doesn't really go anywhere. And what I've kind of learned over the years is there's a great book that really impacted me called 30 Lessons for Living. And the basic premise of the book is the author interviewed people who are about to die, and he asked them, like, what's one life lesson you'd like to pass on to the next generation? And a big part of the theme of the book is a big part of our happiness comes from our relationships with people, with our partner, with our parents, with our siblings, our friends, our community. Like when that is in place, we tend to be happier, we live longer, we feel better about ourselves. And it is a big part of work as well, where the biggest regret that people have is they work too much and they didn't spend time with their family or seeing their kids grow up, or they don't have a best friend now that they're older, right? Like these are all real things. And it kind of made a light switch go off, and I say, okay, and this is what I'm known for now, is like I always like to say happy people are productive people. So in the beginning of my business, I was very focused on, okay, how do we make you so productive that, you can get anything done, you can get more done if you want to. And now the messaging is more, how do we make you really happy? Because happy people naturally will be more productive people. Even if you don't have the right tech tools and strategies and tips, if you're really happy, generally things will be more productive in that sense, right? And so I've kind of realized, especially with COVID, we are very social people. We're very tribal. We want to be around others. And yes, Zoom meetings are more efficient. Yes, remote podcasts are more efficient, but nothing replaces this in person. And so I'm okay with the inefficiencies that come with that, and even the cost inefficiencies, because at the end of the day, we're having this feeling of, wow, this feels really good. And it's hard to replicate that online. Whereas if we're having dinner and we're talking about stuff and we're complaining together how terrible Facebook ads are, like that's a memory that will always stay with us, at least you and I will always remember sitting on that couch. That could have just never happened online or on Zoom. And so I think when people realize that as well, where it's, hey, we're very social and we cherish these in-person experiences, at the end of the day, that memory dividend that we create in our heads and that pays off over time every time we think about it is really what matters most. It's the collection of memories and experiences.
I love that phrase, happy people are productive people, because even if they're not productive, they're happy, which, like ultimately at the end of the day, we're going to die. We're not going to remember anything, or maybe we do remember things. depending on your belief structures. But like the time we have is the present. So like if the alternative is being really productive and miserable, yeah, you're productive, but you're miserable. Like, I don't know.
I think, especially as entrepreneurs, we have this, and this is kind of like a similar description and experience. Is we set a goal to say, hey, let's generate $1 million in revenue, right? And then you see that like timeline crossing by, and it gets closer and closer. You're like at 900,000, 990, and then you cross 1 million, and you go, what just happened? Like,
Yeah.
nothing has changed.
Where's my confetti? You know, where's all the like people coming up to me to congratulate me? And
Exactly. Like we're chasing this feeling of like, oh, like we're being recognized, like we're amazing. We can say that we had $1 million in revenue, but what we're really quote unquote chasing is this feeling of happiness, or being grateful, or having this inner peace, or maybe for some of us even recognition to say, hey, this is what I accomplished, right? And I just see so many people kill themselves, meaning like they're trying to build like a $10 million business or a $20 million business, and they're miserable. They don't have a family.
Divorced. Yeah, they're getting divorced.
Exactly.
They're destroying their bodies. They're destroying their health.
And at the end of the day, if you've ever been sick, the only thing you ever want when you're sick is just to be healthy. Right? When we're sick, there's only one thing we want, which is to be healthy. And so when we're killing ourselves, whether it's slowly or fast, we start to realize, like, at the end of the day, whether it's a 10 million, 30 million, $50 million business, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Like, what we're being known for is what we did for our family, for our community, for, people close to us. And, were we happy along the process? And at the end of the day, like, I think what I've realized is that's what matters to me. It's not the numbers or the recognition or whatever. It's, am I following my own story and my own journey, and am I happy doing it? And if it's not, like, what do I have to change?
I think for the people listening who maybe haven't started a business yet, or they're still kind of in that small phase, it's easier to kind of feel maybe like jaded, or you don't really believe it. It'd be like, oh yeah, I need to get to that $1 million revenue, or I need to get to that $10 million revenue, because I know when I get there, I'm going to be so much happier. And I agree entirely with you. Like, you have to enjoy the journey. In my belief, I think like essentially like $1 million or $1.5 million of revenue in e-commerce, and you've made it in life. You're the top, 5%ers of life. Like, you can put a roof over your head, food on the table, car. You can hire executive assistants. Like, you can focus on the things you want to focus on. So kind of do that math depending on how many partners you have. Like, if you have 3 other partners, 25%, then a $4 million company. Grow to $4 million. And like, at that point, you've won. And if you're not changing your focus to be, I need to enjoy the journey, then you're on the pathway of no longer winning. Because a company doing, 15% or 20% profit on 4 million, what is that? That's like $800,000. That's like $200,000 a year per owner. I mean, that's a pretty good life.
Yeah, if you pay yourself, including on top of that, that's pretty good. Yeah, like nothing to complain about. I always tell people too, we're living in Austin and it's getting more expensive every year, but like if you make over $250K a year in Austin, like you live like pretty damn well. Yeah. Like, it doesn't take $1 million business to even have that. Like, if you're a one-man show, you can accomplish that as well. Like, it's completely possible. But I agree in the sense that, to get to that 1 million, it requires a certain level of focus. It requires a certain level of taking certain risk, right? And we kind of have to go through that season of life in a way where we do that. But then I think the wisdom that we share here, and also that I've heard from so many people, is just don't forget about the journey and being happy with it as well, as much as you can. Because at the end of the day, people don't really care if you made $1 million or 10. Like, what they care about is how you made them feel and what you did for them.
Yeah, and usually it's kind of faux pas to brag about what your revenues are, or your competitors find them and they start staying in your
Oh,
place.
yeah, or they just go, oh, how many employees do you have? And then they, it's kind of their sneaky way of just kind of like assessing you, and it's like, honestly, I don't care.
Yeah. At a certain point and a certain size, like you get to the point where competitors aren't going to be able to catch up or do the things that you do. Like, you feel confident. One of the guests on my show, Sean Frank, is the most transparent guy I've ever met, and it's just absolutely amazing because he's just like, yeah, man, try to do what we're doing. He's just that confident in their abilities. And that's kind of a little bit of a segue, but maybe he's got some of that efficiency in him where people like me just aren't going to be able to.
Well, there's only one of you,
Yeah.
right? And so nobody can replicate that.
Well, Tan, I'm going to tell you, like, I feel guilty because I'm actually like, I don't identify as a productive person. Like, I feel like I'm probably one of the least productive people at the Beard Brand office. And that is also like a little bit of guilt. Like, as I've moved from like that one person role where you're executor, and I had my shit together then, to like the strategic role of visionary. And it's just like sitting around thinking about the future and like maintaining the brand. Like, I just feel like I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, you feel this guilt.
Yeah, I feel this guilt because I've moved from, away from an execution task oriented role to like I don't know, like thinking role or like
Yeah.
a management role.
No, I completely understand that. And it's not that I'm here to fix you or anything, but I think another way to think about this is as we grow our business, the impact that we make on our business changes as well. So in the beginning, it was like a lot of, getting our feet dirty and hands dirty and whatever we need to do to, let's just say you make one strategic decision, right? You're going to say, hey, we're going to launch a barbershop. Like that might seem easy on the outside. Like you made that one decision, but it might have taken you a long time to think about this and assess this and talk to different people about this to come up with that one idea, right? And once you came up with the idea and you made that decision, it completely changes and impacts the different parts of your business now, right? So just like Warren Buffett, yeah, he might be reading all day, but like he makes one decision. Guess what? That impacts hundreds of thousands of people and billions of dollars because now he is at that level where he has that leverage where, that one decision can change and affect so many different things. And the same thing is true in our businesses. As we grow and we step further away from quote unquote doing the work, we have a different impact now where the vision and the decisions that we make impacts the team members that we have and our clients and customers. But that comes with a huge impact. And I think we always have to remind ourselves of that is like, we make a different impact now where it comes from our thinking. And so having quote unquote thinking time, which is something that Keith Cunningham is known for. And I love his books. I would recommend it to you. The Road Less Stupid is a great book. And then the other one that he wrote, The Insanely Successful Business Blueprint or something. But one of the things he teaches in there is the idea of thinking time. So as your business matures more, the power of the CEO or the founder comes from thinking time, meaning are you spending time thinking about your business and solving problems in your business? And if you do, those decisions will make a huge impact. And so hopefully that will make you feel a little bit less guilty because you are making a difference, but it's just different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not losing any sleep over it. So I just, if my team ever sees me, like, because you don't see my thoughts is the thing. Like, I could just be sitting here laying on the couch, like churning through problems. But to them, it looks like I'm just laying on the couch. And sometimes I'm just laying on the couch to recharge, like get that energy back.
Yeah, it's kind of like this analogy someone gave me was like a poet, right? Like when a poet is staring out the window, it doesn't seem like work. But when they're staring out the window, just pondering, there's a lot that's going on in their head, what they're thinking about. And that split moment can generate a poem that might last generations for people that they cherish, right? But on the outside, it looks like that poet is not doing anything. Right. And I feel like a lot of us are in that same situation.
You mentioned you have a podcast. What's it called?
It's called The Productivity Show.
The Productivity Show. And you've done 400 episodes.
Close to 400 episodes, yeah. It's been around since 2016, and love it. Release a new episode every single week, and it's all about just how do we help people become more productive.
Yeah, so my listeners got some work to do to catch up. How else can people support you? How can they find you, reach out to you?
Yeah, just go to asianefficiency.com. We also have the podcast. You can subscribe to us there and just sign up for the newsletter. We give a newsletter every single week as well. And if there's anything that you find helpful, please let me know on the website or just follow me on Twitter at Asian Efficiency.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming by. Thanks for being inefficient and meeting me in person. I am very happy that you came by. It's been great to see you. And guys, this has been another e-commerce Conversations. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Cheers and keep on growing.